Hello, everybody, and welcome into Bats for Baseball, the baddest baseball podcast on the internet, presented to you by Betway. I'm your host, Nicholas Blaylock, joined alongside by Adam Peddle. Today, folks, we're talking Twins, guys. They are quite the interesting baseball team, if I might say so myself. We're going to break down everything that happened with them this offseason, kind of our projection for them into 2025, and then just overall where we are at with this squad. I feel like there's kind of a team that you forget about a little bit, but they're always there, but you still forget about them. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you forget about them because their names don't pop up in the headlines at all in the offseason. Like, they never do anything exciting. They never really go on deep winning streaks or deep runs in the playoffs. They're just there, right? And that's what the Twins have always been. Let's actually start with that, I think, talking about their offseason, because I'm going to put it blank. It sucked. It was terrible. They didn't really bring in anybody. They brought in Ty France, who's looking to bounce back. They did that in February. So, let's see what he can do with his negative .9 WAR for this team. They brought in Harrison Bader to come off the bench. Okay, nice little defensive replacement for when eventually Brian Buxton gets hurt. Okay, that's
Which
good.
will happen, by the way.
It's going to happen.
Guys.
We're going to talk a bunch about that. And then on the bullpen side of things, they brought in Danny Columbi. That's actually not a bad signing. 29 innings, 2.12 ERA. He was pretty okay. And then Eberson Castellano, Rule 5 draft pick. And that, my folks, was it for who they brought in. Now, what they left is probably going to be a talking point here. What left their team was Carlos Santana, Max Kepler, longtime Twin, as well as Kyle Farmer, longtime Twin. He's gone. Josh Stallmount, Caleb Delbar, Trevor Richards, our old friend from Blue Jays, Diego Castillo, Manuel Margot, legendary Tampa Bay Ray, Stephen Okert, Jay Jackson, and Anthony Desclafani. That's a lot of guys that just up and left the Minnesota Twins. So
yeah, man. Carlos Santana led the team last year in home runs, 23 home runs. That's not a lot of home runs, but still, your team leader right there is dipping out. So, yeah, it's questionable to say the least. Looking at that lineup where it's at right now, they got Matt Wallner leading off, Carlos Correa batting 2, Byron Buxton 3, Trevor Larnach 4, Royce Lewis 5. Now, I want to focus in on that top 5 because specifically Carlos Correa, Byron Buxton, and Royce Lewis, these are all individually great baseball players, and the ceilings for these guys is like, oh shit, we're getting MVP votes, boys.
100%.
Like, we're up there in RBIs, we're up there in home runs. Seriously, like, Royce Lewis can hit those things at will sometimes. Byron Buxton, dude, he flies around the base. Like, the guy is he's incredible, right? But the problem is that all three of them have their serious injury concerns and histories and everything like that. Looking last year, Royce Lewis, 82 games. Carlos Correa, 86 games. You got a good season out of Byron Buxton.
Yeah.
He just got over 100 with 102. That never happens.
Dude, that's the first time he got over 100 games since 2017.
That's fucking
insane.
Crazy. That's, the point being here is that these are good players. Oh my God, and Matt Wallner too. I don't know if they traded for him or where they got him from, but 75 games for Matt Wallner. So I don't know what his.
They've had him, like, he's been on the team for a while, but just 75 games.
That's okay. So again, news to me that he is an injured guy as well. But point being here is that if you could guarantee me, like, if you can tell me right now that all like that top 5. They're going to miss, kind of 10 games each, but they'll be healthy for the time. I'm like, okay, lock me in. This is a top 10 offense in baseball.
Right.
But that's not what's going to happen.
No.
Because one of them's going to go down for, the entire middle of the season, and then their season's going to be shot because, it's tough to get back into it. Like, it always fucking happens.
Like, you never want to predict injuries because, you could say that about any team. Like, oh, well, this team's just going to get injured, and then that's fine. But with this team, and to my knowledge, I don't know if they made any changes to their training staff because it feels like they need to of how much they've get hurt, or maybe change the effing soil on the field. Like, for whatever reason, they keep getting hurt over there in Minnesota. But you can predict that this team is going to go down with injury. And you're right. Like, if they all stayed healthy, this offense last year was 13th in average, 12th in on-base percentage, 11th in OPS, 14th in homers. If they're all healthy, it's like a top 5 lineup.
It definitely could be, man. I mean, and I'm looking at it right now too. Trevor Larnach didn't even pick this up. He only played in 112 games.
Yeah.
So out of that top 5 right there, like literally the most games that you got out of your top 5, was 112 from Trevor Larnach. That's just it's not good enough. And it is cause for concern.
And I feel really bad as well for like the players. Like Royce Lewis has still so much potential. He's still only 25 years old.
Dude, Royce Lewis could quite literally be one of the best players in baseball if he could stay on the field. Because when he's on there and when he's playing good, like there was a stretch last year, because I owned him in fantasy. I remember this. He started out the year injured. Then he came back, and there was a stretch where it was just like homering at will.
Yeah.
And then he got hurt again. Then it's like, okay, it's just so hard for him to stay consistent with that.
It's the same argument or the same conversation that we've had with Byron Buxton for over the entire career that he's had. Like, this guy was a former 2nd overall pick. We're super excited about this guy, then could never stay healthy. Royce Lewis, a former 1st overall pick, in the same conversation. So that's also going to be literally their Achilles heels, and we're going to watch their Achilles heels probably snap a bunch over the course of the season.
No, it sucks, dude.
It's terrible.
It sucks.
But so for us, like, it's almost really hard to predict them to do anything greater than they already are doing because of how much they've been getting hurt. So that's the lineup right there. And, they've had a history of kind of, riding with the matchups as well, doing lefties against righties, righties against lefties. So we'll see if that plays out. They actually just lost their hitting coach over the Blue Jays. So how much is that going to play a factor into it when you got guys that are coming off injury? Can they get back up to speed that quick? But let's transition a little bit over to that starting rotation. And I actually really like this starting rotation. It's pretty solid. You have Pablo Lopez being the ace of the staff. He had a 4.08 ERA last year, but I think we all know he's more capable of doing better things than that. They had a pretty good year from Joe Ryan and Bailey Ober last year. 3.60 ERA for Ryan, 3.98 for Ober. I actually had him in fantasy, and he kind of tapered off near the end of the season, probably because they were losing and sucked. Then they had a nice little breakout from Simeon Woods Richardson, and then Chris Paddock rounds out the rotation. And last year, like I said, they had a really weird year. They were really great in strikeouts, really great in not walking players, but it looks like the long ball killed them.
Right.
25th ranked in MLB, and then they had a 22nd ERA. So I guess if they just figured out not to give up the long ball, they might be better.
Yeah. I mean, I don't necessarily love this rotation, but I certainly don't hate it either. I think that there's a lot of guys with upside. I also like the age. I look at this.
They're all young.
I look at this and I'm like, have we seen the best out of Pablo Lopez? Can you believe it or not? The guy's only 29.
Yeah.
Right. So there could still be, a couple more years there where it's like, oh shit, we hit a new tier, right? Similarly with Joe Ryan, kind of the same age. They're all kind of around that middle 29 age, other than Simeon Woods Richardson, who is a very young player still, 24 years old. He was a top prospect for a long period of time, and I wouldn't be shocked if he takes another step up. So I like the rotation, and I like the upside. I don't think it's a rotation, though, that's going to just automatically carry you to victory. I think that you're going to need the lineup to be healthy and to still hit for you to win ball games.
Yeah, that's kind of their MO, and they're going to give you innings, too. They all put up some pretty decent innings. I think a couple of them, like Joe Ryan, did get hurt for a little bit. Simeon Woods Richardson came up halfway through the year, so he didn't get the innings there, but still 133. But they'll give you the innings, and they'll carry you through. But you're right, it all depends. The Twins live and die off the lineup, literally. They don't bang, and they don't pop off unless that lineup pops off. When they made the wild card in 2023, and they beat the Blue Jays, their lineup was healthy in the wild card and in the postseason, and they had a good showing.
They also shut the Blue Jays out pretty bad.
They did, and the Blue Jays offense was terrible. Their pitching was good though. So as long as they bang, they'll be good. And then you look over at that bullpen, they got a good back top two right here, Johan Duran and Griffin Jacks. They're ranked 7 and 19th collectively according to Fangraphs. They're very solid. They've got Johan Duran had a down year for his sake. I think he's due for a bounce back. He's still 27 years old. That's a lightning arm there. And then you look at the rest of the bullpen. You can kind of piece together some middle innings and back end stuff. So the pitching staff, I think, again, is good enough. It's like kind of average, so maybe above average in a given year. But it all depends on that lineup.
Yeah. I mean, I think you're a bit higher on the pitching staff than I am.
Really? You don't like these guys?
I like them, but I mean, look, dude. Like it was the same guys last year. They were ranked 22nd in starting pitching ERA. Same guys last year. It was ranked 19th in relief pitching ERA. They actually lost about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 relief pitchers.
I could tell you that all these guys were ass though. They were all ass.
All right.
Like,
so maybe addition by subtraction.
Minor league contract, and then a 1 year $2 million. So they're all,
yeah, but that, again, like still depth, but maybe addition by subtraction. Yeah. Point being though, I mean, like the rotation, like what's your defense against the rotation? It was the exact same guys last year. They were 22nd in ERA.
No, it's interesting because like how they played the game looked very awesome. It felt like they gave up the long ball too much, and if they can just figure out a way to not give up the long ball, then like I think there's a way for them to dramatically improve. And like you mentioned, they're still young. Like have they hit their ceiling yet? Like this was the first kind of breakout year for Ober and Ryan to like really took that next step for their sakes and their careers. What's the next step? We'll see. I think it's good enough. Like I'm not saying they're like a top 10 rotation, but they're good enough to get them through the season and give them a chance.
Yeah, potentially. Like, okay, I can meet you in the middle on average. It's like I could see them being at like average 15th in baseball type thing. But I don't think it's enough for this squad. I like, for me, this team looks wildly mid, and then when you factor in the injury concerns that a lot of these individuals have, it bumps it down for me.
Yeah, well, here's the thing, like. I think it's when I say the rotation's good enough for this lineup if healthy. Like if this lineup is healthy, this team is going to go to the playoffs. Like they're going to win their division. Like it's that simple. Like if this lineup's healthy with this rotation and pitching staff, they'll go to the playoffs. It's like you looking at the AL Central. Like you got the Royals and the Tigers, but they're not overly dominant in any single way or capacity. Like we'll break them down. Guardians, they lost a lot of guys actually last year via the trade.
Well, they lose a lot of guys every year though.
Every year, so we'll see how they do. What they can do this season, but there's a reality where if they stayed healthy, but that's a big if, right?
It's a massive if, dude. And I again. Like we said, the off season, it wasn't pretty. Like I know that he is old as sin, but 150 games from Carlos Santana and your team lead in home runs. Will you get those games and those home runs back?
You know what they need to do? They need to sign JD Martinez. He's still out there. Yeah. They need to go get somebody else because. Like, I mean, it's not like, well, oh no, what are you worried about? He's gonna get hurt? I think you're already worried about that.
You're already kind of in the shitter in that regard. So, okay, well, that's them. What's their line?
Their line is what is it here? 83.5. That's presented to you by Betway. Everybody, hit your picks and knock it out of the park with Betway. Scan the QR code on the screen or click the link in the details section to join the action. Available in Ontario, must be 18 plus. Please play responsibly. Yeah, 83.5. It's tough. Even odds, and they won 82 games last year for this squad.
That's really tough.
It's simple. They're healthy, over. They're not, under. It's as simple as that for me. What are they gonna be?
Okay, if that's as simple as that. Under.
Well, where do you think they're if they're not healthy with all the subtractions they made with this squad, where can you realistically see them kind of?
So here's the thing. I could actually see a reality where if this team was predominantly healthy, I could still see them being a 500 ball team. Whereas if they weren't healthy, I can't possibly see them going over that. And for that reason, I have to say under. because I mean, let's face it, more times than not, they're not even going to be healthy. So
yeah, see, the thing that keeps like kind of making me think about it is like I know the Twins in 2023 were a very good squad, like, and they pretty much have the same guys other than like Farmer and Kepler. And then what'd they win? 90 games? What'd they win? They won. I can't even see. They don't even tell me right here. 87 wins. So it's like they have the potential, and that was a year where they were fully unhealthy. Like it was brutal. Like they didn't have Royce Lewis for most of the year. They didn't have Bruxton. The same conversation we've been having. So they have the ability, and their pitching staff actually kind of got better. It got better, shockingly enough, than it did that year. Are they going to be healthy? I feel like the safe play is to go under, but again, yeah, like maybe the Royals and the Tigers step up a little bit. They won 86 games both last year. Maybe they'll still be there. I don't know. It really feels like a coin flip for me.
I'm going under. I'm pretty confident in it. This team honestly kind of looks like a seller at the trade deadline. It feels like we're too hurt. We don't have a clear direction.
Is anyone up on a contract this year?
Oh, I don't know. Good question. But wouldn't be shocked if you see some names pop up from Minnesota.
I could see them just. Honestly, I think they're going to go pretty idle all year. They're not going to make any trades. I don't know, maybe they trade away a couple of guys. I think they'll try. Like I think I'm going to see them all throughout the entire season. They're going to be there. Like that whole AL Central feels like very much in the same tier for me. They're going to be there, and then like if they're waiting on Byron Buxton to come back, they're like, okay, well let's wait like a few more weeks and we get Byron Buxton back. That's our trade acquisition, and then they'll bang. So that's kind of it for the Twins right there. Pretty mid, and but you guys let us know in the comments down below. What do you think? Are you going over under on the line of 83.5 for the Twins? Hit that like button, subscribe to Bad for Baseball on our YouTube, and we'll catch you next time.
Cheers.